spend a lot of time in the lab. And to me, the lab is just a workshop for ideas and for concepts, whether it's, serums, moisturizers, or yes, lip products. But my focus happens to be skincare, and my ingredients are raw materials for cosmetics. But I really do believe that everyone has their own individual lab as well, where they learn, play, and create, whether that's in the salon with hair, in the makeup studio, or at the spa. And so today I just like to cover a few things while we're all together. And number one, I want to share a little bit more about how Matter of Fact came to be, our brand pillars and products, and of course, I'd love to answer any or all questions you may have. So, how did this all get started? Well, I've always loved making things. I was, born and raised in the Deep South, grew up in the Panhandle of Florida, as I mentioned earlier, to Korean parents who were working hard to make ends meet. This was at a time before there was high-speed internet and smartphones, and so needless to say, I spent a lot of time alone trying to find ways to entertain myself. And I knew early on that I loved books, I loved puzzles, and I loved making things that made people smile, especially art and music. But actually, K-pop is what led to my interest in skincare. So while I was in college, I was offered a record deal in South Korea. And K-pop is, an intense industry. Being in front of the camera was intense, and my already acne-prone and sensitive skin really gave me a lot of trouble at that time. And I was being sent to the dermatologist sometimes multiple times per week, but I wasn't getting a lot of guidance on daily care. And so I really found myself in a cycle of sensitivity, redness, and breakouts. And just by chance at that time, I did meet my future instructor and mentor in cosmetic formulation. And she not only helped me get my daily routine in order, but she really sort of sparked my interest in formulation. And I learned all about the effects of different delivery systems on active ingredients, the challenge of balancing potency with gentleness, and of course, the importance of creating products that are beautiful enough that people want to use them day in, day out for long periods of time, because we know that in skincare, consistency is key. And being in the lab really did take me back to some of those very good memories from childhood where I spent my time making things that I hoped would bring people joy. And so after I got over my initial fear of whether someone like me was allowed to create formulas of their own, I really started to wonder whether, we could make some improvements on what was already out there. And so wanting to unleash powerful but really finicky ingredients like vitamin C, but also other ingredients like retinol, azelaic acid, that we know can really improve the appearance of skin but can be tricky to work with. And then also the idea of maximizing the efficacy of products while minimizing the irritation through what we call combination therapy. And of course, I'd love to say that I formulated all the products myself out of some sort of spirit of, you know, entrepreneurship, but really that's not the whole story. The truth is that I did approach some of the best labs in the country to work with. But because I was bootstrapped at the time when I founded Matter of Fact, I just couldn't afford to work with them. And it was at that time that one of my mentors really encouraged me to get on the bench into the lab and do it myself. And because that was really my only viable option, it's what I ended up doing. And I do feel so lucky to have had that kind of encouragement given to me. So Matter of Fact is really a culmination of many, many, many years of learning and playing and creating. Over the past 16 years, I've had the privilege of learning from some of the best veteran formulators in the industry, dermatologists and PhDs. And to date, I've been able to create a lot of technologies, over 10 patent pending technologies, around the delivery of these research-backed actives that can really improve the appearance and health of skin. And so now that I've covered, how this all got started, I'd love to walk you through some of our brand pillars. So, of course, something that I truly believe is that innovation is beautiful, right? And so we know that skincare can feel complicated and it can feel overwhelming. There's so many competing messages, there's so many competing products. And so, how do we really get effective products that can also streamline people's routines and deliver that information in a matter of fact, straightforward kind of way so it doesn't feel intimidating? And then also, how can we work with ingredients that are finicky to work with? So I mentioned vitamin C earlier. Vitamin C is an example of an ingredient that's very unstable and will break down on the shelf unless it's properly stabilized. There are other ingredients that are sometimes irritating if you don't formulate them properly or have something in the formula that counteracts that kind of irritation. So this is the case with, retinol, right? And in other cases, there are ingredients that are really well researched, really, really great, but they're very hard to deliver to skin. Azelaic acid is a good example of this. This is an ingredient that's great for redness, for blemishes, for dark spots on skin, but it's very hard to dissolve. And so oftentimes you have to use really high concentrations, and then it gets gritty, it gets chalky, and also it causes unpleasant sensations on the skin like itchiness or burning or stinging. And so I spent a lot of time in the lab creating what we call a collection of technologies called Actisolve that can really optimize the performance of these really great ingredients so that they can really shine their brightest. And then, of course, we do take clinical testing very, very seriously. So this is probably the pillar of matter of fact that we talk through the most. But when I founded the brand, I thought, what does it mean to be a clinical brand? In a day and age where so many brands say that they're clinical, but they don't actually do true clinical testing, I thought, A, we have to do robust clinical testing, and B, we have to communicate it in a way that's easy to understand. So what does robust clinical testing really mean, right? We can get into some of the details of that, but these are the pillars that form the structure of what Matter of Fact is all about. So, clinical testing. What does it mean to do really robust clinical testing? Oftentimes, when we're in an environment shopping for skincare, we might see a lot of facts and figures about 100% of users thought they saw an improvement in their dark spots or their wrinkles. And that's a great figure to have, and it's a useful data point. But strictly speaking, if that's the only data you have, it's not a true clinical trial. It's not a true clinical test. And so we thought, how can we really define for ourselves what clinical means and make that a higher standard that we can share with all of our clients? And so the first thing is that we want to have an unbiased approach, meaning that all of our tests are conducted by third-party independent labs, so we can minimize the amount of bias that we're introducing into the testing. And so an example of how this is sometimes not done is I wear brand A, for example, and I have a product that I think is really, really great. And I want that figure that, 30 people tried this product, and out of those 30, 29 people thought they saw a difference in their wrinkles. I can send that product to 30 of my friends and family and send them a survey monkey. And of course, as all of us probably feel, our friends and family love us. And if they know that we have a particular goal in mind, they probably want to help us get there. So they might not be as candid or honest with us in their feedback if they know that, well, it's a product that we made and that we're hoping that they'll enjoy. And so that's why it's important to have these tests performed by third-party independent labs so that the users don't know what they're using. They don't know if it's an existing product, a new product, if it's from a brand, they don't know which brand it's from. And more importantly, the researchers don't know either. So they're blinded so that we can really trust the data that's collected in that clinical test. The second thing is we want to reflect the real world and get a wide range of skin tones and wide range of ages, just to make sure that we have good data showing that the product works for a wide variety of clients. And so skin tone is often divided into 6 different skin tones. The scale that we use is called the Fitzpatrick scale, one being the least pigmented of skin types, the fairest of the fair, very, very pale skin that burns just at the tiniest exposure to UV radiation, and then of course the most richly pigmented skin tones as well. So we guarantee that all of our products are tested on 2 through 5, so very light to very dark skin, and when we can, we get the ends, 1 and 6s, but they are quite rare. So sometimes we can't get them in a population, but we do commit to types 2 through 5. And then, of course, we also want to measure results in multiple ways. And so I mentioned one way of measuring results before, which is asking people whether they saw a difference. So that's called subjective self-assessments, right? That people are assessing their own skin looking in the mirror. And that is important because unless users can really feel and see a difference in their skin, they're usually not motivated to keep on using the product. But to get more objective measurements of improvements in skin, we do two other kinds of measurements. So the first is dermatologist or expert grading. So can a trained medical expert see a difference in skin before and after treatment, again, in a blinded fashion, so they don't know whether someone's perhaps in a placebo group, so they're not actually even getting an active treatment or not, so in an unbiased way. And then the other way of measuring results is using specialized equipment. So that's called instrumental measurements. So if we're using a device to measure wrinkle visibility, or if we're using a device to measure the darkness of a dark spot on the face, we can numerically and quantitatively measure the improvement through machinery. And if all these three things are in agreement, right? A doctor and expert can see a difference, an improvement. We can measure that improvement through specialized equipment, and the user sees the difference in their skin themselves, then we're pretty sure that this is a robust effect. This is a good effect in the product, and it has a very, very high likelihood of really achieving what the client is looking for from the product. Okay, so this is just a snapshot of our product line. And so you might notice that it's divided by color, blue and white. And so the reason we do this is because we really want to make it easy for clients to navigate the product line. And so we put our active products in blue packaging and our nourishing products in white packaging. And so what do we mean by active and nourishing? So we define active products as those designed to tackle stubborn concerns such as dark spots, wrinkling, and blemishes. These are really concerns that require a more active approach to make a visible difference in skin. And we define nourishing products as being those designed to soothe, restore, and reinforce skin's moisture barrier. So these two things, of course, work in complement to each other. And depending on the person, the season, or the circumstance, someone may need a bit more of an active blue approach or a bit more of a nourishing white approach. So for example, right now it is quite dry and maybe not so cold here in Los Angeles, but it is quite dry now that it's winter. And so I'm using a lot more white, a lot more nourishing products right now to keep my skin from being dry and irritated. But I do know that as soon as the weather changes to be warmer and more humid, I will need more of the active blue products to keep my skin in check in terms of blemishes and the dark spots that result from blemishes. And then, of course, this is first product that I formulated for our line. And I alluded to some puzzles in skincare that I was interested in solving before. And one of those was vitamin C. Vitamin C is, of course, an ingredient that gets a lot of love and for a good reason, because we know that it's a great multifunctional ingredient that can address dark spots, wrinkling, and also free radical damage from the sun and from pollution. So it's sort of a triple threat in terms of skin benefits. But we also know that it's a very fragile ingredient. So it degrades rapidly in the presence of light, air, but especially water, which is of course a catch-22 because in skincare, oftentimes you want to dissolve ingredients in order for it to penetrate into skin more easily and pleasantly. And I kept on hearing clients talk about vitamin C and requesting the same three things over and over and over again, and saying they could only ever get at the most two. And so the first thing was they wanted pure vitamin C or L-ascorbic acid in a 15 to 20% concentration because this is where they were seeing visible, noticeable results in a short amount of time. And of course, L-ascorbic acid, the pure form of vitamin C, is the most research-backed and effective form of vitamin C. And number two, they wanted it to be smooth and non-gritty in texture and wanted it to be able to layer beautifully with sunscreen and foundation because so many users like to use vitamin C during the day, since of course we're exposed to more pollution and sunlight during the day. And then number three, they wanted it to have a long shelf life so they didn't feel rushed in using the product or having to worry that their product had diminishing efficacy over time. And of course, this was hard to do all in one product, but we're able to achieve it. So this is a 20% concentration of pure vitamin C in a waterless formula. And so you don't have to worry about the stability, and we have the receipts to show that. And of course, that also means that it's dissolved, so it layers without any sandiness or grittiness to the product. And of course, this is the first technology that I made, so it did take a lot of iterations. It took over 50 prototypes before I was able to really land on this formula. And then if we can go to the next slide. So, of course, we want to understand the efficacy, right? So, something interesting about our vitamin C serum is that we've not only tested the stability over time, knowing that the vitamin C stays intact for the entire 24 months of the product's shelf life. And just for some figures there, at the start, 20%, even after a year and a half, 18 months, after being produced, it's still at a 19.56% of vitamin C, so less than 0.5% of degradation. And that's because of the lack of water and, of course, the protective packaging as well. But why do we care about the percentage of vitamin C degrading over time? Because we care about efficacy. Can it still lighten dark spots? Can it still soften wrinkles over time? And we are the first and we are the only vitamin C product to actually do clinical tests, not just on fresh product, but also on product at the end of its shelf life, showing that the product is just as effective on dark spots and wrinkles at the beginning and at the end, which is something that has never been done before. And we published that data actually in a very a well-regarded medical journal called the Journal of Investigative Dermatology, and presented that research at their international conference 2 years ago. And so that's something that we're very proud of. You can see some of the before and afters from some of our clinical studies. These two happen to be from a study on fresh product at the beginning of its shelf life. And of course, we know that it's going to be good for dark spots, for wrinkles, for loss of firmness in skin. So all of those signs of aging and sun damage that we accrue over time. We can go to the next slide, please. So if you look at this before and after, you can actually see that this is actually from a product or from product that's near the end of its shelf life. So it's in that second clinical study that we did on product that's almost 2 years old, and you can see there's been no diminishment in the efficacy of this product. And then, of course, sometimes people want to ask, why is this vitamin C a bit darker in color? And the reason for that is that we use an ingredient called maritime pine bark extract in the product. And the reason I wanted to include this ingredient is that it's a really, really antioxidant rich botanical extract, but it's also been shown to work synergistically with vitamin C. And we also include an ingredient called ferulic acid in this product as well, which is again another antioxidant that works synergistically. They work better together, the vitamin C, the ferulic acid, and the maritime pine. But maritime pine bark extract does naturally have a dark color, and it varies in color from batch to batch. And so that's why you'll see the product vary in color from a champagne to a more amber shade, depending on which lot it was a part of. But we do know that color is not a good predictor of the efficacy of the product. And again, we have the research and the receipts to show that. And so we just wanted to highlight that so you're aware of why the product is the color that it is. Next slide, please. So if people like to use vitamin C during the day, a lot of people like to use retinol at night. And retinol is, of course, a vitamin A derivative. And it's considered by many to be sort of the gold standard in terms of cosmetic ingredients that can really improve wrinkling. But we knew we could make some improvements. So the first thing is that retinol is very, very unstable, just like vitamin C. And it can also be quite irritating. So we wanted to make sure that the formula could deliver the retinol in a stable way and in a way that decreases the amount of irritation. So we use an encapsulated form of retinol that doesn't flood the skin all at once. It releases it over time once applied to the skin for less irritation. We put in some fantastic anti-irritants into the product as well. We also wanted to supercharge the effects of retinol by including vitamin C and azelaic acid. And so, of course, vitamin C, you know already, it's quite an unstable ingredient, just like retinol. Azelaic acid is quite finicky and hard to work with as well. And so this is the first product and only product in the market to use vitamin C, retinol, and azelaic acid all together in one product. What this means is it's able to attack many signs of aging from multiple angles for a synergistic effect. And this was a real eureka moment for me when I realized I have developed technologies for each of these ingredients. Would this allow me to combine them into one product for better, faster results with less irritation? But of course, we had to put it to the test to really know. So if we could go to the next slide, please. You can see here that the before and after is quite dramatic. And this is not from a laser, it is not from a peel. This is from a topical product applied just once a day. And this particular study was over 4 months or 16 weeks. And so you can see a pretty dramatic improvement in really advanced sun damage on the skin in the form of dark spots, but also in the form of wrinkles. And so this is a product that we really recommend those wanting to really tackle the visible signs of aging, or those who have more advanced signs of aging, using this at night. We do recommend going low and slow with active. So what do I mean by that? Even though these products have been designed to maximize efficacy while minimizing irritation, and in our clinical studies, we saw a very, very, very low incidence of irritation. In the wild, we know that people use products in all kinds of unpredictable ways. They may have gone skiing and their skin may be wind chapped, and then they decide to use a very active product. Well, that's probably going to increase the chance of irritation. Or they're using a prescription product that sensitizes their skin, and then they're introducing a new cosmetic on top of it. And so in the wild, we always want to be cautious. And so we say, if you have not used a retinol product before, start slow, so meaning using it 2 to 3 times per week to begin, see how you react, and then slowly ramp up to nightly usage as your skin tolerates. And then go low, meaning you really only need a pea-sized amount of this product to cover the entire face. And that's true of the vitamin C as well, where we say just use 1/2 of a pump or 3 to 4 drops. And the pump is quite sensitive, so you can get the product drop by drop with the vitamin C. And you just apply it sparingly so it covers the face in a very, very thin layer of product. In skincare, we know that more is not always better. More sometimes just means more irritation. So if we could go to the next slide, please. So resurfacing and hydrating serum is really a product that's special to me because I formulated it for myself and I've used it daily for the past several years, even before it was launched. So I have very, very blemish-prone skin. A lot of other people suffer from blemishes and uneven texture, pores as well. And so my skin has always really required chemical exfoliation, so using hydroxy acids to keep it in check. And the problem with the chemical exfoliants that I always encountered was that if something was strong enough to really keep my blemishes and pores in check, it would take my skin to the very edge of what it could tolerate, and the wind could blow, and my skin would go red, dry, and flaky. And that wasn't really a fun experience to have. So I thought, is there a way to maximize the efficacy of these hydroxy acids while minimizing the potential irritation? And I was able to tinker enough to find something that really worked for me. And then as I shared it with several of our team members that had similar concerns, they encouraged me to launch it officially as a product. So this is how this product really came to market. But we use a combination of both polyhydroxy acids, which are sometimes referred to as next generation alpha hydroxy acids because they have all of the benefits, but much gentler on skin, and it doesn't make skin sensitive to UV radiation, the sun, as much as alpha hydroxy acids do. And we've combined that with a beta hydroxy acid, salicylic acid, which is particularly good for pores, and also included some other goodies like niacinamide, galactoarabinin, and tranexamic acid. So this is really going to smooth, it's going to brighten the skin, and it's going to decongest skin all in one step. And galactoarabinin may be one ingredient that many of you have not heard about because it's not quite as common in cosmetics. But this is quite an unusual ingredient because it can exfoliate skin, but in a pH independent manner. So we don't have to get the pH of this product to a really, really low, acidic, stingy pH for it to be effective on skin. So next slide, please. So here you can see, and of course you can see all of these on our website as well and really zoom in. And we have some videos on social media as well. But the difference in pores is quite dramatic for those who have large pores and have congested pores. This is also a product that I mentioned before is going to smooth texture and fine lines as well, which you can see in the bottom before and after. And we have additional before and afters on the website and on social media showing quite a dramatic difference in pigmentation, areas of hyperpigmentation on the face, dark spots as well. So when people ask, well, should I be using the resurfacing hydrating serum or should I be using the wrinkle and texture concentrate? I'd say for many of our clients, those who are younger and still dealing with blemishes, but seeing the first signs of aging and sun damage as well. So a lot of clients in their late 20s to late 30s, a lot of them like the resurfacing hydrating serum because it tackles both their pores and blemishes and those early signs of aging all at once. And then, of course, those clients who are more mature and have more advanced signs of sun damage on their skin really gravitate towards a wrinkle and texture concentrate. But actually, we see some advanced users, especially members of our team, using both, not just alternating them on separate nights, but also layering them. So using the resurfacing and hydrating serum first, and then laying the wrinkle and texture concentrate on top. This is an advanced move. And so I would only recommend it once you're using the products individually and you like the effect and you know you can tolerate it. But the resurfacing and hydrating serum will boost and supercharge the efficacy of the wrinkle and texture concentrate by exfoliating the skin first and allowing the retinol, the vitamin C, and the azelaic acid and the wrinkle and texture concentrate to penetrate more deeply into skin. And so that's just a little pro tip to differentiate between the products. Next slide, please. And of course, this is the last product in the blue range, our Maximalist Age Defying Moisturizer. So this is actually the first moisturizer we're sharing about today, but it's actually the second moisturizer in the line. I had formulated a minimalist moisturizer for really sensitive skin before with a lighter texture. And the team had come to me and asked for uh, a second moisturizer. Well, what do you want from it? And they said, well, the first moisturizer was so wonderfully thick, but also light in texture. Could you make this a richer texture, a richer feel on skin? And also, instead of focusing on sensitivity, barrier repair, soothing and calming, can you make a moisturizer for nighttime that really focuses on the signs of aging? And I thought, okay, assignment received. Let's go into the lab and try to make something. Moisturizers are really great for delivering, unsurprisingly, moisturizing ingredients. So humectants that bind water, emollients which really soften the skin, and then occlusives which trap moisture within skin so skin doesn't dry out too quickly. So those ingredients are really easy to incorporate into moisturizers. Moisturizers are not always the best delivery system for active anti-aging ingredients because those ingredients have a tendency to make creams and lotions break. So if you've ever had a cream or a lotion that over time has separated and you notice that you get a big blob of oil and then a big blob of water, it's because the emulsion or the cream or lotion has not has not been properly stabilized. So it's not holding together quite as well as it should over time. And this gets much more pronounced when you add in a lot of anti-aging actives. And so that was a real challenge with this product. But this took many iterations. I felt a bit like a French chef being asked to make sushi because I don't have the skin type for this particular product. And so I really had to rely on my teammates, whom I gave many, many prototypes and samples to give me the feedback that I needed. I have oily, acne-prone skin, so I don't use really, really rich moisturizers. And so getting the texture right and then getting the clinical efficacy right was a challenge, but we're able to do it. And so this is a peptide hyaluronic acid, niacinamide, bakuchiol rich moisturizer that can really improve the signs of aging in one product. And so we like to say that this moisturizer is so active that it'll make your serum jealous. But of course, we had to have the receipts to back that up. So we could go to the next slide, please. We put it to the test. And again, on social media, we share even more before and afters, and you can see some quite dramatic results, especially when you zoom out and see the entire face in totality, lifting years and years of sun damage. And this was just with this moisturizer, not with a separate serum. And so this is a product that's received a lot of love. We won, of course, the Allure Best of Beauty Award last year for this product for Best Rich Facial Moisturizer. And it's received a lot of love from clients as well. This is the kind of product that can achieve a lot in and of itself. So a one and done. For those days that you're really just exhausted from the day. All you can muster up is getting a makeup removal towelette, rub your face, and then put some moisturizer on before you collapse into bed. Well, doing that with this product, you'll know that you're doing something great for your skin long term. But if you want to combine it with the other blue active products, you will get an even more pronounced improvement in sun damage and signs of aging. And so, for example, combining this with a wrinkle and texture concentrate as your treatment and this as your moisturizer would be a very, very hard-hitting anti-aging duo. Next slide, please. So, of course, our first moisturizer, the Minimalist Hydrating Moisturizer. This is really a formula that I formulated for myself. Again, I have oily, blemish-prone skin, but I do get quite dry in the winter. And because of my sensitivity, I had such trouble finding a moisturizer. And I think those who are sensitive and acne-prone can really relate to this. Finding a moisturizer can be really a big challenge. And so I really formulated this for myself. When you pump this out of the jar at first, you'll see it's quite a thick texture, but then you apply it and it just breaks on skin and melts into the skin without any heaviness or waxiness. And so it's really able to deliver that heavy hydration without a heavy feel. Some people are surprised to hear that this took more iterations than the brightening and firming serum, our vitamin C serum, but it's true. And I was able to achieve this by using some really powerful barrier repairing lipids. So that's sort of the mortar in between your skin cells that keeps water from being lost from the skin too quickly, but also a combination of Centella asiatica, which is a great soothing botanical extract with some good research behind it, a licorice root extract that's very purified and very expensive called lysertinic acid, which is a very, very good anti-inflammatory, calming, soothing agent. And then, of course, an emulsifying blend, that's what keeps the cream a cream, that's very, very light in texture. And so even though it's a velvety, beautiful texture coming out, it doesn't feel heavy and waxy on the skin. And so next slide, please. We can actually see through the clinical testing what dry skin looks like under magnification. So on the left here, you can see the dryness of the skin, the scaliness. And this is, some people are quite alarmed to realize this is what dry skin looks like under the microscope, but it is true. This is what it looks like. And you can see after that all of that scaliness has been relieved. You can, it almost feels like the skin has been given a nice soothing drink of water. And just because a product is a nourishing product and not an active product, it doesn't mean that we skimp on the clinical data. And so in this two-week clinical study, we use a device called Scan VC20 Plus, and that's how we're able to capture this imagery. And then we also measured the dryness as well. And it was actually over a 55% decrease in dryness and scaliness of skin. And of course, because this is a product that's so gentle, that's so soothing, you can imagine that there are a number of ways that you can use this product. And so one way I'd love to highlight is that this is a great team player with other products. Those with really sensitive skin, of course, they might choose to only use this product. But this is the kind of product that can help you tolerate more active products as well. And so if you're wanting to use the vitamin C, if you're wanting to use the retinol, for example, but you're afraid to dive straight in because you have sensitive skin, what you can actually do is use this moisturizer first. So you apply the minimalist first to skin, and then just 3 drops of vitamin C or 1 pea-sized amount of the wrinkle and texture concentrate and apply that on after. And what that will do is it acts as a buffer to slow the penetration of those active ingredients into skin so it's not flooding the skin, and that gives a gentler experience. And so this is a tip that we give all of our clients, and many of them love doing it. The other way you can actually do this as well is sometimes people like to cocktail their products. And because we have laptop airless pump jars on both of our moisturizers, some clients like to drop a few drops of the vitamin C into their moisturizer and mix it and apply it all at once. Also with the other active products, they can do that as well. The other thing that we hear over and over and over again from clients and from influencers and makeup artists in particular is that they love using this moisturizer under makeup because it has a beautiful smooth light texture, but it also has some grip that acts as a primer. And so there's less migration of makeup when applied on top. And for the same reason, it's good under sunscreen as well. And then of course, this is very, very relevant to some Cosmoprof clients, but in a spa or services setting, post-service, because it's so gentle, it's so hydrating and beautiful in texture. We've heard from some licensed estheticians that they really, really love using this post-service on clients as well. Next slide, please. So our barrier and antioxidant treatment is, I like to say, something that acts like a heavy-duty ointment to really heal damaged skin, but in the texture of a light facial oil, and of course, very, very rich in antioxidants on top of all of that. And this was born because my team had come to me saying, we love facial oils, and so many people do because they feel luxurious, they feel nice on the skin, and they can make skin feel soft and supple instantly, but feeling frustrated that they weren't the most active, or I shouldn't say active, most, how should I say this, functional of products. It was really just how the product felt. What was it actually doing for the skin? And they said, can you make something that feels wonderful like facial oil, but it actually performs in a way that it achieves more heavy lifting? And I thought, okay, let me try to rethink, re-engineer what a facial oil can be and what it can achieve. And a few years ago, I feel like this trend comes up every few years, the trend of slugging. So using Vaseline, petrolatum, or another really heavy duty ointment and applying it all over the face as a last step in your routine, uh, resurged in popularity. But for anyone who's actually tried doing this, you realize it's not always the most pleasant of experiences, even though it is effective, because your face sticks to your pillowcase. And so I thought, what can we do here? So this product uses a very, very high dose of a barrier lipid that we call liquid crystal lipids. The INCI designation of this ingredient is C10 through 30 cholesterol lanosterol esters. So it doesn't really roll off the tongue, hence why we gave it a more easily memorized nickname of liquid crystal lipids. But a 20% concentration of this ingredient is how this product is able to achieve its repairing effects on skin. And we included in this, in combination with that barrier lipid, a cocktail of antioxidants such as bakuchiol, turmeric root, vitamin E in its pure and active form, and a very intriguing and long-lasting antioxidant called Ronacare AP. And the goal was, let's make sure it can repair skin, but let's see if it can have benefits beyond that as well. And so if we could go to the next slide, please. We put it to the test. The barrier pairing effects were, of course, a standard test that we could do, and it could show that it reduced water loss from the skin, it could repair dryness. That was easy. But what we did on top of that was something called minimal erythemal dose testing. So this is a test of antioxidant activity that we actually did on the vitamin C as well. So what this is a measure of is how much solar energy skin can be exposed to before it burns. And we get a baseline of skin beforehand, and then we saturate the skin with the product for several days in a row, and then redo the test in a separate area to see if we've been able to increase the amount of UV radiation required to cause a sunburn because of all the antioxidants that have built up in the skin as a result of use of the product. And vitamin C is very unusual in that it's one of the few antioxidants that's strong enough to actually have a measurable effect. That's why people love layering it beneath sunscreen, because no sunscreen is going to block out 100% of UV rays. And so for the UV rays that do get through your sunscreen and cause free radical damage, well, those free radicals can be mopped up before they cause that damage if the skin has already absorbed lots of antioxidants from the skincare products you've used. And we did the same test and actually saw similar results of antioxidant activity between the brightening and firming vitamin C serum and this barrier and antioxidant treatment, which was quite surprising and quite exciting. And I did see a question pop up about the line, is the line vegan? So the liquid crystal lipids is actually derived as an upcycled product from the wool industry. And so it is not, strictly speaking, a vegan ingredient. So some of our products are vegan and some of our products are not. And at a glance, I can say that our vitamin C brightening and firming serum, our resurfacing and hydrating serum, our maximalist age-defying moisturizer are vegan. Our minimalist hydrating moisturizer and this berry antioxidant treatment, because of the liquid crystal lipids, as well as the wrinkle and texture concentrate, are not vegan. And then, of course, our new launch, the cleanser, is also vegan, which we can get into next. Next slide, please. So this is the newest product to our lineup. And I had been making cleansers from 2018 when I first started formulating for Matter of Fact. And we've come such a long way in terms of cleansers. 10, 15 years ago, you couldn't find oil cleansers or balm cleansers that could really remove stubborn makeup at the drugstore. You had to go to a specialty retailer to get that kind of product. Not so today. You can find oil and balm cleansers at Target and at CVS. And foaming gel cleansers have come a long way too. They become much gentler, much less stripping to skin. And so while I made a lot of cleansers, I thought, is anything really a standout enough that I would feel good about releasing it to the market and not feeling that it would be just another version of something already available. And so I kept on tinkering in the lab, and I thought to myself, well, it'd be wonderful if a cleanser could remove makeup like a dedicated oil or balm cleanser, but rinsed off cleanly like a foaming gel cleanser. So you could have a double cleanse without double cleansing. You could have a double cleanse with a single cleanse. And I thought, okay, let me try to make this. And so I'm so excited for all of you to try this product because it is quite unusual. It has a very thick, almost like a thickened honey-like texture squeezed out of the tube. And I would recommend using it on damp hands, on wet hands, and thinning it out a little bit on with your hands before then applying it to a dry face full of makeup if you're wearing makeup that day, and just seeing how it melts all the makeup off, and then rinsing it. This is not oil-based. It's glycerin-based. And so the other goal that I had with this was it definitely needs to be non-stripping to skin, but I wonder if we can actually make something that actively hydrates the skin without any oiliness, without any oily or waxy residue on the skin. And so we didn't know until we did the clinical testing, but if we can go to the next slide, please. We did do clinical testing even on the cleanser, which I realize is a little bit bonkers. But we did. And what we were able to see from the clinical testing was that, of course, we knew that it was going to remove makeup quite effectively, even stubborn, waterproof, wear-resistant makeup. Uh, and also that it would rinse cleanly. Those are things that we didn't need a clinical test to necessarily tell us for us to know. But it was actually able to hydrate skin in a way that a moisturizer might be able to do, which we were not expecting to see from this product necessarily. And so that was quite exciting. And the testers in this clinical trial quite loved this product, which made me very relieved and happy, of course, as well. But this is the last of the products. And so next slide, please. This is just a summary of, who we are, of course, and then our philosophy on routines, meaning, again, wanting to maximize the efficacy of each individual product so that people can have relatively streamlined routines uh, to use every single day. They don't have to use 10, 15 products. If any of you guys remember the K-beauty trend of several years back when people really were recommending using 10 products in one routine, you can have a routine that's 3, 4 steps at max and really be able to achieve everything that you want to. And so we did include just a few sample routines that we can just quickly show on the following slides. So this is all going to be available to you. So if someone's really concerned with advanced signs of aging, right, make sure that you're using the brightening and firming vitamin C serum during the day. The wrinkle and texture concentrate with retinol, vitamins, and azelaic acid at night for that really, really, heavy hitting anti-aging effect. But if they have more sensitive skin, for example, they might want to use the minimalist hydrating moisturizer, or if they really want to maximize their results, they might want to use the maximalist agifying moisturizer. They might want to add in the barrier and antioxidant treatment if they're sensitive and they're dry, or it's wintertime and they need additional sort of nourishing of their skin. Next slide, please. And of course, this is more me because I do have blemish-prone skin, but I actually do a combination of both. So I toggle between the resurfacing and hydrating serum and the wrinkle and texture concentrate, and then also use the at night, but then during the day use the brightening and firming serum. But this is just an easy way to illustrate that you can really tailor the line and mix and match the products to create a relatively short and simple routine that's still extremely effective. For your particular needs. Next slide, please. Very, very sensitive skin. Sometimes very, very sensitive skin needs to use all white. And sometimes it's not all the time, but during a particular flare-up or a time of sensitivity. Here in LA, we had, of course, horrible, horrible wildfires in January, and it really triggered a strange reaction in my skin, all of the smoke in the air. And for weeks, I had redness and sensitivity in my skin. And so for that period of time, I really did need to focus on using the products in white, the nourishing products, until my skin sort of recovered from all of the smoke. But you could imagine going skiing and having, wind-chapped skin, or playing a little bit too much in the sun in the summer, and getting a little bit chapped from not just a sunburn, but also the heat and the constant exposure to water. And then, of course, you can always buffer, as I mentioned before, as well. Next slide, please. Okay, that's it. And of course, if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer all of them.
Thank you so much, Paul. Okay, team. Now I know that you're not shy, so we don't doesn't matter if anybody's got their cameras on now or don't have it on, but please come off mute and ask your questions. Don't always get the founder and creator on a call. So please, if you can, please don't be shy.
Yes, I'm tougher than I look. And also, of course, I do formulate all the products myself, and so I would be so excited for the opportunity to be able to formulate live and make product together with you.
And he's not kidding. He really does want to do that. Okay. All right. Don't make me pick on somebody here. I know that you all have questions. I did see,
I have a question.